Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, we are taking a look at some battles in the Open Great League, featuring some Pokemon that are typically seen in the Master League meta. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the team consists of an Excadrill on the lead, with Shadow Gyarados and Shadow Dragonite in the back. So this team is extremely glassy, but can output some massive damage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Master League meta Pokemon, but in the Great League. Hopping to the first match, leading Exca into Noctowl. Despite the type advantage, the glassiness of Exca does make this a bit of an uncomfortable matchup. Opponent is going to bank some energy, save switch into Trevenant, and Trevenant will be met with a Rock Slide from the Exca. That deals some pretty significant damage. In comes Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite can't quite get the farm down. Trevenant, with a few HP remaining, makes the Shadow Ball and grabs a shield from the Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite does leave with quite a bit of energy, which should hopefully be useful versus whatever they send in. They send in Galarian Stunfisk, farming up well past the superpower, going for the Dragon Claw bait. Dragon Claw gets the shield. Stunfisk continues to farm. They lost track of their energy, and now superpower is going to connect, nearly one-shotting the Stunfisk. Stunfisk is going to fire off the Rock Slide. We'll see the immediate no shield, and now you can just send in Exca to farm down. Opponent sends in Noctowl, and in comes the Shadow Gyarados. Gyarados is going to let the first charge move through. They go for the Shadow Ball. That nearly one-shots the Shadow Gyarados. Gyarados is so glassy in the Great League. Firing off the crunch here on very low HP. That grabs a shield from the Noctowl and gets the defense drop as well. That is massive. Exca shields up the Shadow Ball, going for the Rock Slide. They should be taking care of the Noctowl. All that's left in the back is the Galarian Stunfisk. They left with energy. They cannot make the Earthquake. And that's game over. We've got a cool matchup in the next game, leading Exca into an opposing Shadow Dragonite. Opponent also running a Great League Dragonite, which is a very cool sight to see. Exca is going to strike first, firing off the Rock Slide and grabbing a shield from the opponent. We're now going to see a pivot into the Shadow Gyarados. Shadow Gyarados is going to commit a shield, as Dragon Claw would hit for a lot of damage. Opponent now sends in a Registeel. Opponent, unfortunately, only running one Master League meta Pokemon, as they are running Registeel to back up the Dragonite. Crunch did do a lot of damage to that Registeel though, choosing to let the Gyarados go, and Zap Cannon is going to be lethal. Back in comes Exca. Exca looking to overfarm and fire off the Drill Run. This should be lethal, getting rid of that Registeel. The question is, what does the opponent have? They're going to send back in the Dragonite. Dragonite will be hit with the Rock Slide. Is this where they use the final shield? Yes, it is. We now have a Shadow Dragonite mirror in the Great League. The final shield will be used. Can the opponent make a second move? They cannot. In the back, they have Shadow Wall Rain, making it to the superpower. Is this going to be enough to KO? It is a Shadow Wall Rain. Superpower gets the knockout. Back in comes their Dragonite. It's a race of fast moves, and the opponent gets the farm down. Picking up a tricky lead in the next match, Excadrill into Pelipper. Now Pelipper will do quite well here, as Weather Ball is probably going to come close to one-shotting the Exca. Exca farming up, switching and catching the Weather Ball onto the Shadow Gyarados. Very nice catch, preserving the energy on the Exca for later. In comes another Registeel. You hate to see it. Farming up to the crunch, going for the Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail will hit for some solid chip damage, getting that Registeel below half health. Gyarados will immediately no-shield. Opponent goes for the Focus Blast. Focus Blast not going to KO, but that does give the opponent some farm. Back in comes the Exca. Exca is going to double up on charge moves, and Drill Run will be lethal here. Opponent is going to let that through. Do they send back in the Pelipper? Opponent is going to send in Trevenant instead. Trevenant will be met with the Rock Slide from the Exca. Rock Slide connects. In comes Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite is going to let this through, as this is not enough for a Shadow Ball. Opponent just going for the Seed Bomb, trying for any possible chip damage, and now in comes Pelipper. Pelipper not taking this Shadow Dragon Breath damage well whatsoever. Shadow Dragonite tearing through Pelipper's HP bar. Pelipper is firing off the Weather Ball. We see the no shield, putting all hopes for this match on the back of Exca. Exca is going to finally use the first of the two shields as Pelipper goes for the Weather Ball. Exca continuing to farm, Pelipper makes another Weather Ball, and that's going to be the final shield used in this matchup. Continuing to farm with the Exca, going for the Rock Slide. Decision time for the opponent. Do they save shields for Trevenant? Yes, they do. Back in comes the Trevenant. Exca at the back-to-back moves, and I think this should be game over. Rock Slide gets the shield. Excadrill wins CMP. Oh my goodness. Going for the bad manners drill run. Down goes Trevenant, and that's a good game. Picking up a favorable lead in the next match, Exca into Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Opponent is going to save switch into Medicham, and Medicham will immediately be answered with Shadow Dragonite. The unfortunate thing is that they pace the charge moves at the same time, but Medicham does have the energy lead here. Medicham farming up. We see Dragonite firing off the Dragon Claw on the CMP tie. This Dragon Claw is going to be no-shielded by the Medicham, and it actually KOs. Medicham hoping to tank it, but Shadow Dragonite just hits too hard. Shadow Dragonite going for the superpower into the Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales. Ninetales commits the shield and gets the farm down. Back in comes Exca. Exca will be hit with a Weather Ball. Let's see how much damage this does. Oh my goodness, that hits so hard. Opponent is going to send in a Chestnut as their final Pokemon. And this is definitely a core breaker. Firing up the shield with the Gyarados as they go for the Frenzy Plant. Shadow Gyarados, these Dragon Breaths hitting so hard. Going for the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie. Is this going to be enough to KO? It is not. Opponent able to hang on with 1 HP on the Chestnut. Frenzy Plant gets the KO. Back in comes Exca, and Exca unfortunately just does not have enough HP remaining. Goes for the Rock Slide. That's shielded, and that's game over. Hopping into the next match, we've got a battle of ground and steel type Pokemon. Excadrill doing battle with Galarian Stunfisk. Opponent is going to save switch into Sneasler. Opponent running some very cool spice. We're going to see a drill run fired off at the Sneasler. Sneasler is going to commit the shield. In comes Shadow Dragonite. These Dragon Breaths shredding through the Sneasler. Sneasler is going to fire off a close combat that grabs a shield from the Dragonite, and unfortunately they are at another charge move here. Gonna let this through. It is just the X-Scissor, and Shadow Dragonite gets the farm down. Opponent can send back in the Galarian Stunfisk, but Stunfisk is not going to appreciate the superpower. Dragonite firing off the superpower. That's going to connect. They're going to fire off the Rock Slide, but now the Stunfisk has basically been KO'd. And now, do you send in the Exca to get energy, or do you bring in the Shadow Gyarados and look for the farm down? Brings in the Gyarados. It's a Surfetched in the back, and Surfetched is honestly quite scary here, as Surfetched just hits incredibly hard, and this team has absolutely no bulk. Shadow Gyarados able to get them low, and we see a switch, catching the charge move onto the Exca. Leaf Blade almost gonna KO. Opponent lets themselves get taken out because they want energy on the Stunfisk. Stunfisk is going to be hit with the Aqua Tail. The question is, can Stunfisk make another Rock Slide here? This is going to be close. Gyarados able to make the Aqua Tail. That's going to be taking down the Stunfisk and securing the win. Picking up a tricky lead in the next match, Exca going up against Trevenant. Now, Trevenant is a bit of a problem, so we are going to see a save switch into the Shadow Gyarados, and the opponent is running Bastiodon. You just absolutely hate to see it. Shadow Gyarados very close to the back-to-back Aqua Tails, going for the Aqua Tail number 1, and makes it to Aqua Tail number 2. Unfortunately, Bastiodon is going to be able to tank both of these charge moves and not even be in the red yet. Going to fully wait the clock, send in Exca, and Exca may look to try and Mudshot down here. Exca is going to let this through, Flamethrower connects, and that does so much damage. Exca deciding against the farm down, going for the Rock Slide here, going for a little bit of bad manners into the Bastiodon. In comes the Trevenant. Exca able to make it to the Rock Slide. Rock Slide will deal quite a bit of damage. We see the no shield from the Trevenant. In comes the Shadow Dragonite, but it's going to be answered with Galarian Stunfisk. This is going to be very difficult for Dragonite in the endgame here in the 2-shield. Opponent is going to grab an early shield with the Rock Slide. Dragonite returning fire with the Dragon Claw bait, hoping for the shield. Opponent calls the bait, and unfortunately that will be game over. Shadow Dragonite not giving up hope, going to try and play this out, but unfortunately I think the Stunfisk is just going to be too much for the Dragonite to handle here. Dragonite going for the Dragon Claw. That's going to get the shield. Switch timer is not up. May have been able to try and go for a catch if the switch timer was up, but unfortunately the switch timer was not yet up. CMP tie grabs the final shield, but Stunfisk KOs the Dragonite and gets the win. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Exca into Toxapex. Opponent is going to save switch into Shadow Dragonair, and Shadow Dragonair will quickly be answered with a Drill Run. Drill Run not going to be lethal, but will deal a lot of damage when it lands, and we see the snipe with a Gyarados. Opponent is going to send back in Toxapex. Toxapex is notoriously tanky, but even so, the Shadow Dragon Breaths are starting to add up. Gyarados fires off the Crunch. That's going to connect, getting the Toxapex below half health. At this point, Gyarados has done its job. We see the no shield. Opponent goes for the Sludge Wave. They go for an undercharge so they can leave with some extra energy. And now this is the tough call. Do you bring in the Exca or do you send in Shadow Dragonite? In comes Shadow Dragonite in the back. Opponent has Obstagoon. Even one Night Slash would deal massive damage to the Glassy Dragonite, so he will see a shield used. Dragonite absolutely shredding through the Goon with Shadow Dragon Breath. Firing off the Dragon Claw, looking to grab the first shield from the opponent. Opponent is going to commit the shield. They're going for Night Slash number 2, and we see Dragonite commit the final shield. Dragonite, I don't think can quite farm down here. Dragonite is going to switch and catch onto the Excadrill. Very nice catch. Night Slash still deals quite a bit of damage. Obstagoon is going to get farmed down by the Exca. Exca cannot get Poison Jab down thanks to the typing. Drill Run gets the final shield. Toxapex gets the farm down, but Shadow Dragonite has the Dragon Claw loaded. Dragon Claw into the Toxapex. Toxapex, oh no, they hang on with 1 HP. Is this the Brine? Is it the Sludge Wave? It's the Brine, and Dragonite gets the win. Positive lead in the next match, Exca into Noctowl. Opponent is going to save switch into Sableye, and Sableye will quickly be met with a Drill Run. Drill Run grabs a shield, in comes Shadow Gyarados, and look at the Dragon Breath go, absolutely tearing through the Sableye. Sableye is going to go for the foul play. Shadow Gyarados does not throw the charge move, and unfortunately is going to have to give up the final shield here. Shadow Gyarados in a bit of an interesting spot here, looking for the farm down, decides against it, and is going to go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will easily KO as the opponent is more than happy to take their shield advantage. Back in comes the Noctowl. Noctowl will be answered with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to be no shielded. Noctowl looking for the farm down. Shadow Gyarados makes another Aqua Tail, looking to put some pressure onto the Noctowl. Noctowl is going to no shield and gets the farm down, and this is tough. Nothing on the team wants to tank a move from the Noctowl, sending in the Exca. Exca nearly KO'd by the Shadow Ball, and it's a Jellicent in the back, and unfortunately that's going to be game over because Jellicent has a shield remaining here. So Jellicent can shield up the Dragon Claw, but Dragonite has no way to stop the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball KOs the Shadow Dragonite, and that's game over. Hopping into the final match, picking up a bit of a scary lead, Exca going up against a Shadow Walrein. Now, Ice types in general have a ton of play into this entire team. Exca definitely needs to stay in here. Exca could have won CMP with a Rock Slide, but instead choosing to farm up and commit the first shield on the Icicle Spear. Exca is going to double up on Rock Slides and going to look to put some pressure onto the Walrein. Walrein lets the Rock Slide through, it KOs, in comes Medicham, and Medicham will be hit with the Drill Run. With 2 flyers in the back, we're going to see a pivot here, in comes Shadow Gyarados. Shadow Gyarados will be answered with Registeel. Registeel is going to be hit with a Crunch from the Shadow Gyarados. Crunch will not be shielded. Gyarados able to get Registeel below half health, but Registeel with a shield advantage is going to go straight for the Zap Cannon, and that's going to be goodbye to the Gyarados. And now it's all up to Exca to try and get rid of this Registeel. Back in comes Exca. Exca going for the Drill Run right off the bat, looking to put some pressure onto the Registeel, trying to get the KO. Opponent lets it go. In comes the Medicham. These counters shredding. Dragonite is being brought in. The question is, can Dragonite Dragon Breath down before another move is reached? Medicham baits with the Ice Punch. Medicham cannot make the nuke. They get KO'd with 2 shields. And that's game over. All in all, these were some very entertaining battles. It's a pretty cool idea to take Pokemon that are typically run in the Master Premier Cup and bring them all the way down to the Great League. While they can still output a lot of damage, at this low of level, they're just extremely glassy, so it ends up being a very difficult team to use, but getting wins with it, all the more enjoyable. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.